Within Excel, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of potential methods of doing formulas. So what we're going to do is a couple of very simple ones to kind of get you started. As we go along throughout the next 2 weeks, we'll actually explore many, many different ones, but I'm just going to start off with very simple ones. Now, I showed you that you can use the equal sign, and the equal sign will allow you to do basic formulas of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. However, there are some other formulas, and there are quite a few of them, that we could actually use. We can go to the Formula tab at the top. Just going to click on that for the ribbon, and you'll see that you have many different kinds of formulas. And there are lots of variations, even for text. We can actually add, subtract, multiply, divide. We can do a lot of different things with text. Logical operations, Boolean functions, adding, ifing, ors. We can also do mathematical operations, and there are quite a few of these. Don't get inundated by any of them right now. And also date and time. Yes, date and time you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. In fact, there are many, many different possibilities. So what I'm going to do is show you that there are some basic ones. And the basic ones are in insert function. Now we can also use auto sum because there are a few here as well. We can add numbers together with summation. I'm going to show you that one. We can average a column of numbers or a row of numbers. We can also count to see, and there are many different types of count. We will explore this in week number 2, so don't worry about this one right now. And also the maximum value within a column or a row, and the smallest value, the minimum value within a row or a column. And of course, there are literally thousands of functions. It's just a question of choosing the particular grouping that you're looking for. And there are many variations. One of the things about formulas as well is that they can also be nested. So this means a formula within a formula within a formula within a formula, so that you end up with one formula. The advantage, of course, is you create it once and you use it forever. In other words, hundreds of times over. As we did just a little while ago in another video, where we actually created the gross pay, and then we just copied that formula down. Once the formula was made, then you can copy it over and over again. So we could use these functions here, auto function or insert a function. We can also come down to the formula bar, and there's a little f of x here, which is to insert a function. We can use that as well. Or we can type it in. Now, I'm not going to expect you to type it in right away because you will get used to this after a while. Sometimes it's much faster. I'm simply going to find out how many actual numbers there happen to be here. So I want to add this up. So I'm just going to scale down a little bit here, scroll down I should say, and I'm just simply going to add these up. I want to know what is the total. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to come up to my function. Now there are several approaches. I could use the formula tab. I can use this insert a function here. I can use the auto sum, or I can go to the home tab and I can click on auto sum as well. It's right here. The epsilon is the auto sum, and I can click on sum. So I'm going to click on sum. Now I could do it from here as well. In fact, what I'll do is I'll click from here. There we go. And I'm going to choose that I would like to use the most recent, which is usually going to have sum in it. If not, you just simply type in the word sum up here. And when you type sum in, it will look for it and it will find it. Okay, and it will automatically always find what you're looking for. We'll just click on go, and there it is. It has sum, and there are many different kinds of sum. So I'm going to click on sum, and you'll notice you get this beautiful little dialog box, and it wants to know, wait a minute now, where's this information coming from? Now we can take it from many locations, but the beautiful feature of this dialog box is it's telling you what it adds up to. So if we're testing to make sure that this formula is working, we can actually test it on something and make sure that it's coming up with the right total. So I want from 16 here, and I'm just selecting it. And you notice it jumps up here, D5, and I'm going to drag my mouse down, holding the left button of the mouse all the way to 15. And you'll notice that it puts a colon between the numbers. So D5 colon D14. The colon indicates everything in between. If this were a semicolon, it would be separated. Okay, in other words, I could have 16, 10, and then jump down here 16, 15. And it would have a semicolon between those two sets, but it would have a colon between the 15 and the 16 and the 16 and the 10. Now that might be a little confusing, but you stick with it. It'll make sense as we go along. So in this case here, we do have a colon between the two, and it comes up to 144.5. That means somewhere along here there's got to be a 0.5, and there is 1, 2, and 3. So that's 1.5. So obviously I'm going to end up with a half. And if I click OK, that's the value it's going to give me. And if I make a change here, so let's just change that 12.5 to just 12. That means we should get rid of that extra 5. And I just want to prove that this formula works properly. So I'll press Tab, and you notice it changed it right away. Now the beautiful thing is I can grab that little square, which is my fill handle, and I can drag it sideways, and of course it's going to add all of these together. Each column will now be added. So this really makes doing this column addition really easy. If you've ever had to do large columns of numbers, you know how easy it can be if you have a method of doing it, and how difficult it can be on your eyes, and also making mistakes becomes really easy. So in this case here, we've used the sum. What if I wanted to count them? How many are there? Well, I can also put in another formula for this one. So I'm just going to click here. I'm going to widen this a little bit so we can see the formula itself. And I'm going to use another one called count. Now this time, just for kicks, I think I'll come up here to the epsilon, and I'm going to use count numbers. And now once again, it's got count plus the bracket. Whatever inside that bracket is going to be counted. So it's going to count how many numbers are there. So there should be, let's just count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There should be 10 numbers there. So if I press enter, there's 10 numbers there. Now if I double click it again, I want you to notice something here. There is a colon, which means all the numbers between the first one and B14, the last one. So B5 all the way to B14. It's that colon that tells you everything in between. So it's a range, a total range of numbers. But below that, when this formula is actually open, or any formula that, for that matter, that we're using the formula functions for, you'll always have a syntax, which is how do I use it? In other words, what values have to go in and what has to come between them. Now, if I wanted to do a second column, I also wanted to do, let's say, this third column as well, which means there's another 10 numbers here. What I could do is simply come to the end of it and put a comma. Now, you see down below here, it actually shows you there's a comma between value 1 and value 2. This is value 1, what we already have, so I'm going to put a comma. And now I'm going to select the second column. Notice again, it's showing you a different color, so it's telling you these are two separate groups of numbers. And now I should get a 20, so let me just press enter, and there's my 20. So using these predefined, and let's just do this in a slightly different context. So below it, I'm going to come back here to the insert function, and I'm going to choose count again. But this time, using this interface, we can actually see how it's counting it up. Now, the reason I'm getting 11 this time is because it's also counting this 20. It's come all the way down to 15. But if I take that back to 14, I'm just going to put a 4 there. I could have just simply selected and come down here, okay? Which means that I now have the full 10. Just going to do that one more time. There we go. So now it's just 10 objects, so 10 actual numbers. But this time I can actually see how it's coming out. And if I want to do the second row, I need only click into it. And you'll notice it will think, oh, you want to put in more still, so it creates some more opportunities for you. And I'll just simply select this group. And now it says, now there's 20 of them. What if I want to do a third one? Well, I'll click on 3, and I'll do these ones here. And now there's 30 because there's 10 here, 10 here, and 10 here. So this is actually a very simple way of doing things. And if you need help with these functions, you can always click on help with this function. And you'll always see inside of the formula row this little box here, which actually shows you the actual formula itself. So even though the number may actually be in here, so let me just accept that value, you see that the formula is still in here. And if I highlight it, select it, it will actually show me where the formula comes from and what is being used for it. Now there are many other functions that we can use, literally thousands of them, and some of them are very complex. These are very simple. I suggest that you play around a little bit with each one of these because you can find the average number, the largest number, the smallest number within a group. And lots of little things that you can play around with. Hopefully that helps a little bit.